The last letter from the forgotten friend, a trail of lies and truth. The morning was slow and silent in the city. The kind of morning when even the air seemed tired. Daniel Moore sat by his apartment window, staring at the gray clouds outside when the postman knocked on his door. He wasn't expecting anything. Bills came by email now. No one sent letters anymore. "Morning, sir. One for you," the postman said, handing over a small cream-colored envelope. Daniel almost told him he must have the wrong person. But then he saw it, his name written across the front in neat, familiar handwriting. His breath caught. He knew that handwriting. He had seen it 1,000 times, on school papers, on notes passed during class, on the birthday cards from a boy who used to be his best friend. The name that flashed in his mind made his chest tighten. Michael Carter. But Michael was dead. He had died 7 years ago in a fire at the Millfield Observatory. Daniel had been at the funeral. He had seen the ashes. Still, the handwriting was unmistakable. He tore open the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside was a single sheet of old paper, edges yellowed and rough. "Daniel, if you're reading this, it means they didn't destroy everything. I didn't die in that fire. What you were told was a lie. There are things hidden in Millfield, things that can't stay buried. Go to the old observatory. You'll find the truth there. Michael." Daniel dropped the paper. His heart was pounding so hard it hurt. He reread the letter again and again, trying to find some clue that it was fake. But no. The handwriting, the phrasing, it was him. Michael always had that strange way of writing letters like a mystery waiting to be solved. He spent the whole afternoon pacing his apartment. Every time he thought of the fire, of the charred wreckage where Michael's lab had been, something in him whispered, what if it was all a lie? By evening, the decision was made. Daniel packed a bag, took his car keys, and drove toward Millfield, the town that had never forgiven him for leaving. The road to Millfield wound through the woods, familiar yet foreign. The trees seemed taller, their branches like arms trying to pull him back. It had been 7 years, but nothing felt truly distant. The small town appeared just as he remembered. Old buildings, silent streets, and the same crooked sign that read, "Welcome to Millfield, a place of stars and dreams." He laughed bitterly. Stars and dreams. What a lie. He parked outside the Millfield diner, the only place that ever felt alive. The bell above the door jingled as he stepped inside. The smell of coffee and fried eggs wrapped around him like a blanket of nostalgia. Behind the counter, Mrs. Green looked up, her eyes widening. "Well, I'll be Daniel Moore." He smiled weakly. "Hello, Mrs. Green. It's been a while. 7 years, I'd say. You left right after that terrible fire." Her voice softened. "You here for work, or—" He hesitated. "I got a letter. From Michael." The cup in her hand froze midair. "Michael Carter?" Daniel nodded. Mrs. Green slowly set the cup down. "Daniel, you know that boy died in that fire." "I thought so too," Daniel whispered. "But someone wrote to me. It's his handwriting. I'm sure of it." Mrs. Green looked around the diner before leaning closer. "There were always rumors, you know. People said that fire wasn't an accident. Some said Michael found something at the observatory, something the government didn't want him to share." Daniel frowned. He was working on a project, wasn't he? Something with memory research. Mrs. Green nodded. "That's what folks said. Project Meridian, I think it was called. Strange name. They closed off the observatory the very next day and sent police from the city. It was never right after that." "Who handled the case?" "Detective Hale," she said, lowering her voice. "Quiet man, but I never trusted him." Daniel thanked her and left the diner, his thoughts spinning. The observatory was on the hill outside town, a place where he and Michael had spent countless nights staring at the stars. Now it was the only place left that might hold answers. By the time Daniel reached the observatory, dusk had settled. The air smelled of rust and burnt metal. The dome was half collapsed, the walls blackened from the fire that had supposedly killed his friend. He climbed through a broken window, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Dust floated in the air like ash frozen in time. Every step echoed. Tables overturned, papers scattered, burned notebooks. Then he noticed something strange, fresh footprints in the dust. Someone had been here recently. He followed them to the main telescope room. The telescope itself was cracked and twisted, pointing forever toward a dead sky. On a desk nearby, something glinted under the light. A small metal box. He opened it. Inside were photographs of stars, some handwritten notes, and a USB drive labeled Project Meridian. His hands trembled as he plugged it into his laptop. A single file appeared. When he clicked it, the screen filled with static, and then Michael's face appeared. He looked older, tired, and scared. Daniel, if you're watching this, it means I failed to stop them. Meridian wasn't what I told everyone. It wasn't about studying memories. It was about rewriting them. They wanted to use it on soldiers, to erase guilt, pain, even loyalty, and replace it with obedience. I tried to expose them. They tried to silence me. The fire wasn't an accident. Don't trust Hale. Don't trust anyone from Millfield. There's more hidden here in the basement vault. You'll need the keycard in my locker at the train station. If they find you, run. The screen flickered and went black. Daniel sat there, frozen. His best friend had been hunted for trying to expose the truth. And if Hale really was part of it? Suddenly, he heard a sound behind him. A faint crunch of broken glass. He turned and found Detective Hale standing in the doorway, holding a gun. Evening, Daniel, Hale said calmly. Didn't expect to see you back here. Daniel stood up slowly. I could say the same to you. Hale's eyes darted to the laptop. Still digging into the past, I see. I got a letter from Michael. Hale tilted his head. Did you now? He's alive, isn't he? Daniel demanded. You lied to everyone. Hale sighed, lowering the gun slightly. You always were stubborn. Listen to me, whatever you think you know, stop digging. Meridian wasn't some conspiracy. It was a failed experiment. Memory reprogramming. Dangerous stuff. Daniel shook his head. Michael said you tried to kill him. That's not true, Hale replied firmly. We were ordered to bring him in. He resisted. The fire started during the struggle. He ran into the woods. We searched for weeks, but he was gone. Then why cover it up? Because the project was illegal, Hale said quietly. People at the top didn't want the truth out. Daniel stared at him. And now, Hale said, someone is trying to bring it back. That letter you got, it means he's watching us both. Michael isn't dead, Daniel. But he's not the man you remember. Meridian changed him. Daniel's pulse quickened. What do you mean? Before Hale could answer, a loud beep echoed from the metal box on the desk. Hale's expression shifted. Get down. The explosion came an instant later, fire, heat, and smoke. Daniel was thrown to the floor, his ears ringing. Hale grabbed his arm, dragging him out through the broken doorway as the observatory collapsed behind them. They tumbled down the hill, coughing and gasping for air. The night sky glowed orange behind them. Why did you save me? Daniel croaked. Hale wiped blood from his forehead. Because Michael wanted you alive. You're part of this, Daniel. More than you know. They took shelter in a small roadside motel. The air smelled of burnt wood and rain. Daniel sat at the small desk, his laptop miraculously still working. Only one file had survived the blast. It was a text document. He opened it. Daniel, if you've reached this far, then I couldn't stop them. I tried to protect you from the truth, but it's time you knew. You weren't just my friend. You were my test subject. Meridian was supposed to help people forget pain, erase trauma. You volunteered, remember? But the experiment failed. You forgot everything about that night, including me. I tried to reverse it, but they found out. They wanted to use what we made. That's why I ran. Check the scar behind your right ear. That's where they placed the implant. It's still there. Michael. Daniel's hand went to the back of his head and froze. There it was. A small scar he'd always thought was from an accident when he was a kid. He looked up at Hale, horror spreading across his face. You knew. Hale didn't answer right away. You were one of the first volunteers, he admitted softly. We erased your memory to protect you. If you remembered the full truth, they would have come for you too. Daniel stood, trembling. "You took my life away." "I saved it," Hale shouted back. "You and Michael both." But he couldn't live with what he did. That's why he vanished. Daniel's voice broke. And now he's trying to undo it all. Hale looked at the screen. "If that letter reached you, he's close. He's testing you, Daniel. He wants to see if you'll forgive him, or destroy what's left of Meridian." The next morning, Daniel followed the final clue from Michael's hidden message. It said, "Look where it all began. The lake beneath the stars." That could only mean one place, Silent Lake, where he and Michael used to camp as teenagers. The road there was quiet, the trees heavy with fog. The lake appeared like a sheet of silver beneath the dawn light. The same wooden pier stretched out over the water, creaking softly in the wind. He walked to the end of it. And there, nailed beneath one of the planks, was a small metal box. Inside was a photograph, 2 boys smiling beside a telescope. On the back, in faded ink, were the words, "The truth was never ours to keep." Beneath the photo was a small black device labeled Meridian Reset, and under it a final handwritten note. "You can erase it all, Daniel. The lies, the pain, even me. Or you can remember and live with what we did. The choice is yours." Daniel sat down on the pier, staring at the calm water. For years, he had been haunted by guilt he didn't understand. Nightmares of fire, of voices screaming in the dark. Now he knew why. It wasn't just memory, it was the truth trying to surface. He held the device in his hand. It had a single button. If he pressed it, everything about Meridian, every file, every trace, would be wiped. Maybe even his memories again. He looked up at the sky. The same stars they had watched as boys still shone faintly through the morning haze. "I forgive you, Michael," he whispered. "But I can't forget." Then, slowly, he threw the device into the lake. It sank without a sound, disappearing into the dark water. The ripples spread and faded until the lake was still again. Daniel stood there for a long time, feeling the wind brush against his face, carrying the last echoes of the past away. Weeks passed. Daniel left Millfield again. Life in the city resumed, though something inside him had changed. He no longer felt empty, only awake. Then one morning another envelope arrived. It looked exactly like the first one. Inside was a small folded card. "You did the right thing. The truth lives on. I'm free now. M." Daniel smiled faintly. Somewhere out there, his friend was still alive, hidden, watching, maybe waiting for the world to be ready for the truth. He placed the letter in his drawer beside the old photograph. For the first time, he felt peace. The past had burned, but the friendship, the bond forged in trust and broken by lies, remained. Sometimes, he still dreamt of the lake beneath the stars. In those dreams, Michael was there, sitting beside him, laughing like they used to. And each time, Daniel would whisper, "You're not forgotten."